So there's Sam. I know a few of us, John, Eric, and Sarah, are taking well-deserved vacations.
Good.
Connie will be running late. And who else is there that we're?
Rick and Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
Andy, can I ask you a quick question? Is there a strategic plan that the city's done or that the mayor has done?
Well, there's a strategic plan that was submitted to the council, if that's what you're referring to for tonight's meeting.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
There's a city council meeting tonight in general government, amongst a bunch of other, let's say miscellaneous things. One was the receipt, I think it's just going to be received and file, but of the mayor's strategic plan, which was a couple of slides, I think, that were presented some months ago to the council formally. Maybe that's what you're referring to.
So, yeah, so it's the reorganization.
No, it's not. It's sort of like I think in my recollection of it, I don't have it in front of me at the moment. My recollection is it's a couple of slides that were presented essentially as a higher level goals and objectives, I guess, in terms of how things should be done. It wasn't like a reorganization of departments.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah, no, we were talking about it earlier and
Sorry, I just got to take a call. I'll be right.
okay, thank you.
Barry also had let me know that he wouldn't be able to meet today. The mayor had indicated that he might come. Julia, is there anybody in the waiting room?
Oh, good question. No, no, the webinar started, so attendees should be able to join whenever. They don't need to be let in.
All right, well, maybe it'll be a quick and easy meeting.
Yeah, I can, and Jane, I can share my screen.
Okay.
I can put up the brochure. I can put up, I
Awesome.
selected like, I don't know, 4 locations for the mapping, both FEMA plus and mean high water plus. So I'll put those up when we're ready. I won't be able to talk too much about how they were made because that's
all right.
not my,
I think for this group anyway.
we'll just look at them.
Yeah, 3 of us have already seen them, so.
Yeah.
Well, Julia, why don't you, while Andy stepped away, because he's probably okay with the brochure. I assume he's okay with the brochure. We want to share that.
Sure. All right. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the final.
Final?
Please don't look at it. Please don't make another change. No, everything is perfect here.
It looks
Don't
perfect.
Don't read it. But this is as if you took the brochure when it was done and laid it out flat, kind of with the inside down. And this is the outside. So this right here, this with the sort of grayish and the boardwalk, this is the very back page.
Is that gray or brown?
It's like brownish, yeah, sort of brownish gray, I guess. This is the very back page with the mayor's quote, let's rally together, blah, blah, blah. Here's our here's our like whatever you call that thing. And QR code. And then this is the very front page, which I love. It's very colorful. It shows everything I think that we want to show as part of why our city is important with resiliency. And then when you open it up, you're going to see 2 pages on the inside, this one and this one, talking about the realities of sea level rise and climate change, etc. And then when you then open it up again and lay it out flat with the inside showing, you will see all of this. And this is, we are working to address these challenges: infrastructure, regulatory, community, mitigation. So this is all set to go. And it's printer ready. He sent me the correct sort of version to be sent to the printer. So I think we can start getting these things made as soon as possible. And I really kind of love the idea of getting this out there now. We can put it up on the website at any time. But, you know, given what we've been through this summer, I think people are having these conversations, and this is the right time to show them what we're doing about it.
Oh yeah, I think we definitely should get it out now. How are we gonna get it out? We had talked about tax bills, but
we're missing this tax bill, which I think goes out. Do you remember when that is, Molly, or maybe it already did?
Are there 2? Or
There's,
the quarter. They send out one and then it has all the tax bills in it.
Yeah,
right.
I thought it was June.
Yeah, I think it's June too.
Okay. So we'll get this printed and we will
And
distribute
then
it.
water does one. I mean, we can keep putting it in different
Yeah.
mailings.
Right, we'll just send it out wherever we can send it out. We can talk to the mayor's office about that. And we'll have it at City Hall. We can have it, the Chamber of Commerce and different other, obviously.
You know,
the senior
whenever there's an
center.
event, like we had that event during Yankee Homecoming, get to know your community. So events like that, if there's, a health fair or whatever there is, we could just make sure that we always bring it along to pass out.
Exactly. We
That's
can even bring
awesome.
some to the schools.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
Um,
schools would be good.
Yeah, the schools would be great. I'm sure the kids that would give them something to go on in their projects. And all right, so that's it. That's where we are.
I love it. And Julia, I think all your hard work and everyone's hard work will, we'll be able to capitalize on it because it's basically, it's beautiful and we can use it for the website too. So it's twofold.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
looks really good.
Yeah.
How many are you gonna
Andrew.
print initially?
And that's a good question too. We have to decide how
You wanna
many to
be on this?
print
We should
initially.
plan.
I've done this before with our Plum Island one, a couple of
Oh.
Plum Island brochures, and we overprinted them. I think we got like 1,000 or something, but we sent out the Plum Island one in the tax bills. But we still have tons left. People don't pick them up and take them with them as often as you think that they would. So we can always get reprints done. So I would say
Mhm.
start conservative with how many, enough to be distributed around various city buildings and to go out to tax bills. And then we can always, play by ear.
Wait, what's the number that you're starting with? Because the more you do, the less it is, obviously.
That's true. I feel
Yeah,
like,
maybe find out what if there's a leap.
The
in terms
tier,
of
yeah,
name
look at the
and-
tiers.
Yeah, this is probably pretty expensive because there's a lot of coverage, a lot of ink.
Yeah, a lot of color, yeah.
yeah,
Senior center would be a good place to drop them off. I think, too.
absolutely. Yeah. The senior center.
Where, did you say?
Senior center?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And who's the printer that you're using?
We've used Minuteman in the past, so we'll probably
It's
just use them
Journeyman.
again.
Journeyman is pretty good to work with too. They're right in the business park.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, either of those, I think would probably be fine. Minuteman, I sort of already have like a
Oh, okay.
whole
Okay.
relationship with, so might be easier in terms of just me communicating with them. I don't know Journeyman, but either way, we could find out the best price. And
Thank you.
we're paying for this again. How, do we have that? We
I
have,
thought it was coming out of your budget.
was it?
That's
Was
the
it coming
last
out of
I
our
heard,
budget?
but
I mean, we've been taking a lot of stuff out of Concom's budget lately, but
yeah.
we probably have enough. Happy to do it. But I did think that we had some funds, don't we, for resiliency or no?
I don't think we have anything left in it because we used it for the plan.
Okay.
That is something we need to sit down and talk with the mayor's office.
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
Now that we're,
Yeah.
everything's kind of.
I'd prefer not to use Concom money for this if we don't have to, but obviously we can. So
I can,
I would just like, and only on
Sure, you want
principle,
me to
like
reach
I
out
would
to
just
him?
like, yeah, and I think that would be great because it's really just on principle that I'd like to see
Yeah, absolutely.
some money for resiliency
Right.
place,
And there's other thing, we're gonna get to it. There's something with the story maps too that we need to talk to them about funding. So it's a good time to do it.
Okay. That's good.
Well, I think it's awesome. You've been working on this for a long time and to get it done. Big check mark there.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I can stop sharing if we want to move on, if Brett or anybody else wants to share anything.
yeah, I was thinking, Andy, I know you need to leave at 4 and you were particularly interested in the story map. So Brett, you wanna
Oh, sure, I can
sit down?
talk. I don't know that I can, well, I could share something, but I wasn't prepared for that, but
No worries.
it's not a problem. Yeah, so we've been chipping away at the story maps and we have, the big, I guess what I'm thinking anyway is that there'll be a collection of story maps, but the first one we're working on is to document the projects that the city is working on that are related to resiliency. So we've done 9, as some level of completion. Overall, it looks pretty good, but I think the content's a little thin of what we're presenting. I think one of the problems that we're having is getting good documentation on the projects. In other words, what are they supposed to be? And myself and Sarah and Jane and Samantha have all looked at different things on the city website and on the daily news, et cetera, pulling the stuff together. My big concern is it might be inaccurate. So, it would be helpful to have some guidance or, somebody that is more knowledgeable about these projects to help vet the content to make sure that it's at least somewhat accurate.
Yeah, I get, can I just start with a framework thing? Again, let me know if I'm missing something here, but I know the idea, I guess, with these story maps, right, is to let the community know and make sure people are well informed and understand and start getting
That's
the
right.
habit, right, of looking for these projects, looking for continuity of the city's efforts, right?
That's right.
Understanding what's going on. We have different ways of doing that story map kind of idea. It could be just pages on the city website. It could be a story map,
Yeah, that's
application or
true.
whatever. The question here, I think, was could the regional planning agency spend a little bit of their time helping us to create those story maps? And I guess my initial thought was, well, we probably want something where we can regularly, through the committee, through you, for instance, the committee members, or through staff, routinely update that and change it ourselves, rather than assuming that we're going through Mvpc every time.
Oh,
which is a waste of-
absolutely. Yeah, let me
so I
just
guess
make a comment on that. The thing is that the actual story maps, the technology behind it is very straightforward to use. Anybody can perhaps do that. The trick is the content. Content is king. What is
Right,
it presenting and how good is that content?
Yeah, so I guess, and then maybe I'm missing it, but it sounds like that content could be reviewed by all the applicable staff here at the city, right? If it's city projects.
That would be
or-
great.
Right, so I think-
That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so I think that's generally speaking, I think a non-issue. It's just keeping that efficient so we can do a review of it, do a markup if there's any text
Yeah, and
changes.
we
or
can send
visuals
out
if there's any-
links
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now to what's there.
So
And
what I was trying to
speaking
figure
to
out with
Andy's
MVPC though.
question, speaking to Andy's question about updating, we had a good conversation with Steve at MVPC last week about that. And he's going to work it so that it would be easy for others to update them versus MVPC, because we certainly don't want to have to go through them on just routine updates.
Right,
So
I just wanted to make sure that
I
we're-
felt pretty comfortable with that component of that conversation with Steve.
yeah, so I think we were just gonna basically, based on this discussion, and I can now sort of give a quick synopsis to MVPC. We want to use our local technical assistance time towards this. We want you to provide, the story map module for us, clarification of how to do the updates to it, right? So that it becomes easy to do on a regular basis. We don't need to, it's just the platform they're giving us. We don't need to go through them every time we're doing updates or additions.
Absolutely not. Right.
And then we can run through the content here, but if maybe you're the person who's doing the updates, it sounds like, but we can basically do all that process on our end, as long as they're giving us the access to that and the platform. And the only question I had, I guess, was it might be good if we can point to like an example out there. Like there's a couple of story maps you can kind of pull up pretty easily by just looking. But
Well, we have one right now, and so we gave Steve Lopez the link to it last week,
okay, so can you
which
just
I can pass out to the whole group.
yeah, if I don't happen to have, and I get inundated with emails, but if I didn't get copied on the link to that particular one, if you can include it, because I want to just include that in the scope for them, just so that when we say we're using our technical time, it's to deliver that specific example essentially for our use. Does
Yeah.
that make
well,
sense?
Yeah, so the big thing is that I see is that, again, it's the content and what MVC is going to provide. I mean, they do the story maps. Right now, we're using as a public access story map from Esri. And so they have this, and the big advantage of going with them, the price is the same either way, $100 a year for what we're doing. So it's very low cost. But with MVPC, we get access to their maps. So you guys, the city is paying for, special maps to be made, the layers. We would get access to that, so we could build on top of, if we wanted to use a map, build on top of that. For example, put kind of a more guided story about sea level rise. They're doing something new with that. We could show that type of thing.
Oh yeah, no, and that makes a lot of sense, and that I think that that makes perfect sense to me. I guess I was just trying to include in the scope of work direct reference to the comparable example that we want them to give us as far as a
Sure.
template, so to speak.
Yeah, no,
So if just make sure I have that link, that way, when we send over to Steve and to Gerard, here's what we want you to use the time for, closing that loop, we can just say, here's the example where we want to use. And that way they're just circling back and saying, here's your access, here's the, a template for you. And you can go right ahead and do your regular updates, and we can assist if need be with
yeah,
some other.
well, first we have to get the account, which is another thing that I wanted to talk about. I mean, we've been working on this site, and to a certain extent, everything we're doing on this public site is a throwaway. Because you can't take the map and then move it to another.
Yeah.
We can
You gotta
take
copy
some of the
and paste
content that
everything.
we've had.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to be diligent in keeping well, basically right now it's all going in Google Docs. We're putting images and all that stuff together. We'll just have to rebuild everything when we get that account. And, so we'd like to get that going. And one of the things that, we've talked about, with this group is that we think the resiliency committee, we can pay for the first year just to get it going. A donation, if you will. And with MVPC, all we got to do is write them a check. Or Steve said, come over with $100 in cash.
Yeah. And again, all I was trying to do was just the formality of explaining to them, because they just need a quick blurb as to what we want from them.
Oh, sure.
And that's,
Yeah.
I just wanted to include the comparable example. That way there's no question there about what we're getting from them as far as the, sort of display, if you will, of that story map module. And that way, like you said, you'll have the access right after that. They'll say, all right, we'll do that work. Here's your access. And you just take it from there.
Yeah, that's it. And that's pretty much the way we want to head, right, Jane?
Yeah.
I got to check with the boss here.
Andy, are you gonna write that up, or do you need someone to, the
No,
format?
I just want to make sure if maybe it's you, but if you could just send me the link to the one that you were referring to.
Yeah, I'll dig it out right now. I sent it. I should have had it ready. I didn't know.
No, that's quite all right. I just need the hyperlink to that, and that way I can include it when I send it to them, and I'll just copy you when I close the loop with Steve, and that should take care of it. I'll copy Rick Tainter as well, so that should close the loop.
And Andy, if you want to send that to us, just in, before, just in case, we're all communicating, same page, feel free. And then
Yeah, let me just dig out the link.
Yeah.
Then I'll put it in the
So
chat.
Brett, you'll send that link over.
I'll put it in the chat here in just 1 minute. So
Okay,
I can find
sounds
it. I
good.
can't talk
I'll
and
grab it.
stuff.
I'll grab it from there. Is there a chat? We don't have a chat in here, I don't think.
Oh, it's not here? Oh, I'll send
Yeah.
an email out to the group.
Okay,
I'll just send it to the resiliency committee, okay?
sounds good.
All right, I think we covered kind of all the points here. That was it. And the big help we could use again is somebody that can help us with the content. Maybe steer us if there's an internal document that's better than what's on the website.
Yeah, I think to be frank, and Julia, jump in here if there, and Molly, if there's something you think that we're missing, but my sense is that because these are constantly moving pieces of details on the project, right? It's timeframes, details.
Yeah,
It might be more of just making sure we have the right city official, whether it's John Eric on his, or me, or Jordy,
right, whoever the contact would be. And
Yeah,
part
so
of
we
the
just,
content here is that,
yeah,
you have this map with the locations in the city, and you click on it and you see something come up and there's a brief synopsis. And the thought is that you're going to click a button and it will bring up more details, which would be a PDF
right.
that could be updated frequently. So it's more like kind of like a news feed. So you
Right,
can get
right,
the latest
exactly.
if you want.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just thinking, like, in order to make your work more efficient, or whoever's involved here, everybody along the way, you could just, for each individual project or, story map, page, so to speak, or element, you could just run that one specific one by the one applicable person in the city who's the best person to mark it up or do any edits or updates. And that way you're not running around like a list of everything to everybody. You're just sending each one to each person individually, just to kind of speed it up. And
That's great. Okay, we can try to formalize that, and then with we'll make the story links public so you can see where it's at. And whoever thinks that they can weigh in on one of the things, that's great.
yeah,
Because there's some information that I've kind of made up a little bit out of pieces.
yeah. Well, I mean, like,
And I
the
don't,
bulkhead
just to
project,
make
that's
it
gonna
look
be-
like there's something there,
Yeah, the bulkhead project, that's going to be Jordy, right? If it's the water supply protection, that's going to be John Eric, possibly Tom Cusick to some degree, but probably John Eric, right? So,
So what we've done, Andy, we have the list, and I went through each item, and my best guess, which is probably pretty accurate, who it should be. I can send that to you if you want, just to take a look at it, or we can just start. We'll just be as organized.
yeah, I'm not worried about that, and
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we won't barrage everybody with everything. It just, that won't work.
sounds good.
All right, I'm sending the link right now to the committee.
Anything else on those story maps right now?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's just pretty nice to work with.
I'll include, when I talk to the mayor about the brochure funding, that $100 story map funding as well to see if we can
Yeah, it's just a matter of going with it. We can get
do
started.
that, or we can pass the boot around or something, but hopefully we don't have to. Molly or anyone, does anyone have an update on how the city's website overhaul is going? If there's anything new developed?
Yeah, I can tell you. So I think the beta is done for the look and the, you know, the new look and feel of it. And Andrew is sort of in charge of that. He, I know he's looking for a little feedback today, but I had given him, and I'm hoping that, I don't know when it's going to be up and running because he's going away for 2 weeks. So I don't know if he can, I can ask him if he can get it done before he goes. But it's definitely a process. But once it all gets updated, then we'd still have the opportunity to make changes to each page. But I gave him all the information that we had sent in from the Resiliency Committee. So he has all that. I'm assuming that the Civic Plus is making those changes.
Yeah, I remember last time he mentioned that he was going to use basically all of it, which was great, all that, the feedback that we gave.
Yeah.
him, so. That
I
was
will ask him right now while we're chatting
Thank you.
on email.
In terms of Sarah, she wanted just for us to know that the next speaker series is actually going to be the screening of a documentary 2040 at the Firehouse on September 28th at 7.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that night. Just
Is there?
yeah, I know that Nourish the North Shore is doing their big event that night.
Oh man,
And
they
I
always
know.
have the problem of
It's always, well, September's a busy month.
no. Well, anyway, it is screening at the Firehouse at 7 p.m. Tickets are free for the first 100 tickets.
Right.
So I bought mine, so I'm interested. It's supposed to be really good. Okay. I was reluctant to even put this on the agenda, the tracking resiliency plan implementation progress. That's me, and I've slacked off. I just haven't had the time this summer to really get into it, but I think it's super important. Everyone has done a tremendous amount of work. I kind of think of September as, you know, the year end, just because that's when I became chair, but that's not really the case, you know, for year end. But I just wanted to be able to present something about everything that we've done, either September or October, because I want you guys to know how much you're actually doing.
Right.
And you know, and as volunteers, and of course we need to track it anyway because we have the plan. We want to make sure the plan isn't just sitting there, which of course it isn't. But yeah, that's me. Haven't done it. Will do. Julia, do you want to bring up those maps and just give a quick overview of what
Sure.
the next group's been doing?
Will do. Okay, let me see if I can find this. And here we go. Wait a minute. All right, can you all see again the brochure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna scroll back to all right, can you see this now, the FEMA map?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so this is Central Waterfront, as you can see. See if I can like blow this up a little bit. Okay, so this is what John Eric did, for those of you who haven't been on our committee, is he did FEMA plus sea level rise numbers. So we've got this showing FEMA plus 2 feet in the green. FEMA, the current FEMA floodplain is shown in sort of the light blue. And then we've got FEMA plus 2 feet is the floodplain shown in green, future floodplain. FEMA plus 4 is the pink, FEMA plus 6 feet is the yellow, FEMA plus 8 feet is the purple, and FEMA plus 10 feet, hopefully we never get there, is the red. And so you can see sort of the extent of that. And that this is essentially the future FEMA floodplain, given sea level rise. And then what he did is, in addition to the FEMA maps, updating those with sea level rise, we looked at mean high water. So this is the same area of central waterfront showing mean high water, which is your average daily high tide today, and again in the light blue, and then with 2 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet of sea level rise. So this is really illustrative because it shows, you know, where your feet are going to get wet essentially twice a day, every day in the future, rather than looking at the 100-year flood, which is hard for people to conceptualize, like, oh, 100-year flood, maybe we get one every year, maybe we don't, maybe we get one every 100 years. So that might never happen, but this will happen. This is daily high tide flooding. So we thought it was good to have some maps that show this as well. So we did both the
that's really good.
FEMA and the, excuse me, sorry.
I just said that's really good.
You like that? Okay, good. We're
Yeah, I
hoping
like that.
that's going to be helpful to people.
Scares me.
Kind of, right,
Yeah, I know.
exactly. Well, you know, and this doesn't provide dates, which is something that we're staying away from. We're
Yeah,
not
I agree.
projecting. Yeah, we don't want to get involved in that because we'll always be wrong, right? If we start projecting when these things are going to happen, but it does give you an idea.
Well, so
Here's-
you put there on that, somewhere that, you know, what high tide, you know, this is gonna look, you know, every high tide, this is what
Yep.
it's gonna be like. Just
we could put
put it in
we could
general
put, like,
terms.
a note here in
Yeah.
general terms for people. Yeah. So when they go to my map in the future, they're going to have some choices. We're going to have what we're calling a expanded special flood hazard area, or, I mean, I don't know if we have the exact name for it yet, right? Andy and Jane, what we're going to call
No,
our,
we haven't decided on the exact language, but
Yeah,
but it might
yeah.
be like special flood hazard area, which is our projected flood hazard area, taking into account sea level rise. And what we've projected as a city is that for regulatory purposes, is that by the year about 2070, we'll probably have somewhere around 40 inches of sea level rise. So we're kind of like, for the purposes of mapping, we're going with 4 feet. So our special flood hazard area will be a mapped 4-foot increase over the existing FEMA floodplain. And that is what you'll see. That is for regulatory purposes, what when we ask them, are you in the special flood hazard area? That is the map that they will look at. They won't see any of these other colors. But then they will have some choices through the My Map system to, you know, oh, I'm just curious, like, what would it look like if it was more than 4 feet? And they'll be able to pull up some of these other layers. Oh, and this is FEMA, but what would it look like if we were just talking about daily flooding, daily high tides? And then they'll pull up these mean high water maps. So we will have all this information available, but we want to make sure that we make it very clear that there's one map for regulatory purposes and all the rest are sort of just like academic.
I just had one comment or suggestion. I don't know, and I could be mistaken about this. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but I don't know if a special flood hazard area might be one of the acronyms that's used with FEMA. And I don't know if we want to make it like future flood hazard area or something like that. Just a thought. I don't, just in terms of names or
Or
acronyms. But
expanded, expanded flood hazard area,
that's
future
what
flood hazard
typically
area.
it's handled.
I think you're right. So yeah, we'll make sure that we get that right. Anyway, I'll just show you quickly a couple more of these. This is the business park, FEMA plus. You can see there's a lot of flooding going to happen in the business park over time. And this is mean high water in the business park with sea level rise.
Julie, I'm just
Here's-
gonna interrupt you just for a second
Sure.
because I got an email from Connie that she can't get in. And Andy, I
Oh.
told you, but I don't know if you got it. Can you send her another link? Or somebody,
Yeah.
sorry, interrupting.
She's not in the attendees. Yeah, I don't have any.
Sorry, go ahead.
Andy, I think you're muted.
oh, sorry, sorry about that. We're not seeing anybody in the attendees list. Let me just make sure she has the link.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
All right, well, you do that. This is the JAPA FEMA Plus map, which is, as you know, it's much more low lying down here. Here's the wastewater treatment facility. Oh, it's already in the floodplain. These are areas already in the floodplain, and then you can see FEMA Plus. And here is JAPA mean high water expanded with sea level rise.
Uh-oh,
Here's-
can I just make a note? Sorry, I just noted is when I looked at the calendar, and I'll leave it to you, Julie, but the, it looks like the city calendar posting just doesn't have the link. So I don't know if that's why she's having an issue getting in. So if you could just follow up
Oh.
with Diane, you know, I know
Yeah.
this might have happened once before, but follow up with Diane and just make sure she's got that stuff posted. Cause I
Okay.
think that's why Connie can't get in.
Oh,
Hopefully we
sure.
don't have, remember there are counselors previously who've asked about access and I just
know.
didn't want to have complaints about that. So.
I know. Okay. All right. We'll have to be double checking that. Now, I thought it was always on there, and this is our regularly scheduled meeting, so that doesn't make sense, but I'll.
So
check
we
with her
changed
tomorrow.
the week, so that could have been. a
We
slip up.
did. That's probably what happened. All right. Apologies
This is
to
just
Connie.
changed once, right, Jean? Or it's gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah.
back to the normal schedule.
Yeah, I was just out of town for a few weeks.
Okay. This is Plum Island right now.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Which is actually, I feel like there's areas that are shown, that are not shown on here that are actually out of the floodplain, remarkably so, but yeah. And now this is, FEMA. Wait a minute. Does this mean high water?
This is two.
So it's in pretty bad shape. Right, this is,
Wow.
yeah, this is mean high water flooding. So the problem obviously on Plum Island is access and
Mhm.
mean high water flooding through this area, and all these streets really is tricky, but regardless. Okay, so let's move on. Cashman, this is FEMA plus Cashman, and this is mean high water plus sea level rise at Cashman. That's it. And there's John Eric has done these maps. He's done such an amazing job, and he's done these maps for literally every section of the city. I've only just pulled up these ones because I think that's what people might be more interested in. Hi, Connie. So sorry that this got mixed up. I think because the meeting date changed, as Jane pointed out, the link on the website didn't.
Yeah, and again, just to plug, only because this happened once before, relatively recently. I know Council Wright had a frustration or concern about that. I just want to make sure, can we please make sure that's not missing going forward?
Yeah, no problem. I feel bad. I was late anyways, and now I'm.
Oh, no, it's not you.
Sorry.
It's actually our fault for not having the right
Yeah.
link on the website. So,
Okay,
Right.
but thank you.
Right.
I'm here now. Sorry.
Okay, Connie, just to give you a quick update. We've talked about the brochure, and I'm happy to show if you'd like to see it, I can show the PDF of the resiliency brochure again. And now we're talking about the sea level rise maps that John Eric put together. And he did two varieties. He did FEMA plus different elevations of sea level rise. Here's the central waterfront showing that. With the current FEMA floodplain being in the light blue, and then adding 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet of sea level rise onto that FEMA elevation. And then he did the same sea level rise measurements, but he added it on to mean high water rather than FEMA 100-year floodplain, so that you can see where daily high tide flooding will take place in the future, given different levels of sea level rise, which is more useful, I think, in planning for some people than trying to imagine the 100-year flood happening. So that's what we did. He did that for the entire city. I'm just showing Waterfront West, Business Park, Joppa, Plum Island, and Cashman Park. But you'll be able to see the whole city done this mapping. That's it.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I know you just got that thrown at you, Connie, so we'd be happy to spend more time with you about, the background on that or anything else, either now or later.
I've seen similar things in the resiliency plan, of course. It's shocking to look at. I have looked at the pamphlet previously, but yeah, it's certainly impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Julia mentioned, but just in case it was missed, the intention of this is to put it on my map. And so residents can take a look at where they are, within these maps. And also, toward the future, we're looking at hopefully implementing an expected or an expanded flood zone. And these maps will be used for that, where people can identify where they are. We have some work to do before we do that, but you know, this is going to be for educational purposes for now.
Right. We need to kind of get this done first, I think, before we start doing a lot of other work in terms of public education, and at least on the website, because this is really providing a foundation for a lot of what we're talking about in other areas in terms of capital projects and things. So
I strongly
sort of-
agree with that. Yeah.
And I think it's a great overlap with what with the story maps, because it's it's the same maps. It's just, so we can look at this where high water, where we're going to get flooding twice daily. And by the way, these are where the major city projects are located. This is why we're doing it. So I think it'd be awesome if we could, and we talked to Steve at Mvpc about this last week, so launching all at the same time to really make those connections for folks. Alrighty.
I heard back from Andrew. He said it'll
Yeah.
be 2 months for the website.
2 months. That's not
2
too
months.
bad.
Yeah.
That works with our time frame as well, actually, for this stuff. Thanks, Molly.
Yep.
So grants, is everyone aware that the MVP grant that we applied for communication stuff, we did not receive? I assume everyone knows that, but
We did
Wow.
not receive. I couldn't hear you.
oh no, we did not get it.
Nope.
I was so bummed.
I know, me too.
What was the
We still
synopsis
don't know why.
Do we know
Yeah.
why?
When will it, did she say September we'll find?
Yeah, so we have I mean, it was crazy because we found out in like July, and she said, we're happy to tell you more about, answer any questions you have about why your project wasn't funded. And we said, great, let's do that. And she said, okay, I have some dates in September and October. We were like, okay. So we have a meeting scheduled with Michelle.
Oh, you
I think
do?
It's like end of September. Wait a minute.
Can you?
Oh,
send
I'm
that
sorry.
to
I
the-
didn't realize you weren't on that. Maybe I penciled it in. I think it is. Yeah. Okay, put this in your calendar. Michelle Rowden, 11 a.m. Tuesday, September 20th.
September 20th.
20th, yeah. And I'll just confirm that with her. I might have just penciled it in so that I could get in touch with you guys and see if you're available.
Okay.
So then we'll find out a little bit more about why. what they
Yeah,
didn't like
I'm
about
sure
our
Sarah will
resolution.
want to be on that call as well, so
Yeah.
she wants so much on there. And Nancy, is Nancy gonna be there?
And Nancy absolutely will be there.
Yeah, that was so disappointing. I thought we had a chance, so.
I thought we had a good chance. We also
but-
got rejected by CZM just a couple weeks later for a coastal habitat and water quality grant that we applied for with JAPA Audubon.
Yeah,
Not so much luck right now.
yeah, we have to keep at it, but
Mhm.
that was tough news.
Yep.
Anything else percolating in terms of grants?
Grants, well, yeah, sort of. I mean, we are getting ready to start preparing an application to FEMA for the buyout of probably 2, possibly 3 homes on Plum Island. It's the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance Grants. And this is a fantastic year to apply for them because there's so much money available to Massachusetts and to all over the country. But it's our likelihood of getting this project funded this year would be higher than most years. And the match is apparently the local match that we would have to pay for the buyouts would be less. It would be only 10% versus 25% in a typical year. So we were strongly encouraged to put in an application, which is what we're doing. But we do have to hire consultants to do that. To do this FEMA benefit cost analysis, and the grant application itself is incredibly complex and technical and detailed and all that.
Is that
So-
falling on you? to do?
Well, I mean, it's not, I'm not, no, so this is what I looked into doing it myself last year. We didn't end up moving forward for multiple reasons, but it's just literally just too much work for one person. It would be your full-time job. And then even if you knew how to do it, which I didn't, and I took like 3 different webinars on it, and it's still incredibly complicated. So the way what they said is the way people do it is they hire outside consultants, you have engineers and other people who work on it together. They're familiar with this benefit cost analysis software that FEMA uses. There are people who do it all the time. So we've hired GZA, or we're working on a contract with GZA to help us put together this application. And they're very familiar not only with this FEMA application process, but with our local situation on Reservation Terrace, which they've been helping us with for years. So it's a good match in terms of how to get this done quickly. The grant application, I believe, is due at the end of October. The application goes through MEMA to FEMA, and then would hopefully be funded to purchase, whether it's 2 or 3 of these homes for current market value. That has to be determined as part of the process as well. So yeah, that's an upcoming project grant.
Is the grant, will the grant also pay for the consultant, or is the consultant solely
Yes,
on
Well-
city expense? That's city's expense.
that's a great question. And it depends. If the grant is funded, then the city's reimbursed for all those consultant expenses and any expenses that went into preparing the application. If the grant is not funded, no. So it is a risk to the city, but we have been strongly encouraged by the state to do this. I don't want to say they gave us like the wink, but they basically were like, you should really apply this year. They want to fund these projects right now. There's a ton of money out there to fund them. So, we can't say no to that. And we also can't say no to homeowners who want to move forward. I mean, we could say no, but we had multiple meetings with the mayor's office about it. And we think that the benefits could outweigh the risks in this case. And that if it gets funded, we would be reimbursed for those costs. And the city would acquire 3 open space properties on Plum Island in the highest hazard flood area, highest hazard erosion area.
All right, thanks.
If
Connie,
you have any other questions, you can ask me. Yeah.
Yeah, so you sort of answered some of my question, but so this contract with GZA, how much would that be? And does that have to come through council? Do you have that funding?
Right now, what they've told us is they've given us an estimate of $8,000, which is like absolutely dirt cheap for what the work they would be doing. It could go up because that was for when we thought we had 1 property participating. We now potentially have 2 or 3, at least 2. So I'm not sure how their costs will be adjusted, given that there's a couple more properties. But even still, it's much cheaper than we interviewed 2 other firms whose costs were like 10-fold higher. Well, not 10-fold higher, but a lot higher.
Do you guys already have budget for that, or is that something that would need to come through council as a transfer?
That is a great question. I am not the right person to answer that. I would ask the administration. I'm not sure how they intend to.
Gotcha. And then my last question, it sounds like I've got an answer, but I'd love a little more information about it. So you have spoken to the potential homeowners. This is not something that's going to come as a surprise to them, especially since sensitively we have a city councilor that has a home right in that zone, right?
Yes. It is entirely voluntary. So they have to voluntarily sign something that says we are voluntarily participating in this grant application. They have to provide certain information about their home, their structure, insurance claims, etc., in order to complete the application. And so we're not telling certain people, your house is going to get bought out. They have actually come to us and said, we want to do this. We want to be part of this program. And that's why we're going forward with the application, not because it was not our idea, believe me. And I do believe at a certain point in the application process, the city council will have to be asked to agree that if the project is funded, whenever that happens, then early next year or whenever FEMA gets around to awarding the grants, that the city would be willing to will commit that 10% match to purchase these homes for their.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, the council has to agree to accept the grant, and then obviously the 10% would have to be agreed to by council as well.
Right. And that has to happen soon because the grant application can't be submitted to FEMA unless there is some agreement from the city council that they are willing to do that at the end of the day.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that answers all of my questions about that for now.
It's very like it's philosophical question for a lot of people in terms of whether or not we should be doing this. But it is a established federal program to do this. And we're taking advantage of it with the hope that if even one property is purchased and that land can become open space to better protect Plum Island, to be part of a broader resiliency adaptation sort of message to the rest of the community, then it would be worth it. It would also save the city resources from going out and rescuing people. It would save the federal government, obviously, resources in terms of not paying insurance claims out there anymore. And this benefit cost analysis that gets done during the application process is highly detailed. And if that doesn't come out to show that it's a greater benefit, or at least equal or greater benefit to the federal government to purchase the house than not purchase the house, then you don't get funded. So
One more question. So the impending dredge that's about to start, obviously will change their resiliency status for at least a short period of time. Does that impact our ability to successfully get this grant, or?
We asked that question. That's an excellent question. And that's actually one of the reasons why we didn't move forward with the grant application last year. One, because we were unsure as to whether or not it would affect our ability to receive the grant. If they said, oh, well, now they're not in harm's way anymore, so all the benefits and costs are thrown off. And two, because we were unsure whether or not all these homeowners were going to be willing to sell their house at the end of the day once they get all that new sand, and we would have gone through this expense in this process to only have everybody back out. So we didn't move forward with it last year. There were a few other technical reasons as well, but we've been told this year that no, that won't affect the application, that the application submitted is current conditions, and that's what they will look at, is the current conditions today, which is the situation of erosion and threat to the homes. And additionally, I think what they understand is that this is an ongoing erosive situation out there. So even with the dredged 200 and whatnot cubic yards of sand out there, this pattern is going to then just start all over again. And a few years later, we're going to be looking at a similar situation. Hopefully not, but there's no indication that that's going to change.
Okay. All right, thanks. Sorry, that's my dogs.
Anything else on that?
Not right now.
Thank you, Julia. That's a big project. And indeed, very philosophical.
Yeah.
Interesting how precedent setting or not it will become. Anything on the hazard mitigation plan itself? Has that, I can't remember, where is that in that process?
That is with FEMA. That's been sent to FEMA. It's doing the FEMA review right now.
Okay.
So I don't know how long they take. I'm assuming that we'll just hear back from Mvpc once it comes back through MEMA to them.
Cool.
I'll let you know.
And the rest of city project updates, of course, John Eric isn't here, but he did send out a pretty thorough list of updates that I forwarded to you all. I didn't have any particular questions, but if we do, of course, we can follow up. His ending with the drought, I absolutely agree. And I think maybe we need to shift some focus toward, maybe not all of us, but some of us, in terms of dealing with drought and fire hazards in the city. So I think I'll also talk to the mayor about that when I see him. I'm sure it's first of mind for him too, I would assume. But if anyone has any thoughts on how to deal with that, how we should as a committee take that up, to what extent, how to do it, I'm all ears.
Yeah, so I get worried about that as well. And I've talked to the water department, and Tom Cusack was out for a few weeks this summer. So I was talking to Chris Hood, who's right underneath him, and some other people. But Newburyport's fortunate to have a lot of water. So, when it goes below 90% in the Artichoke Reservoir is when they start issuing water alerts. So, but why do we have to wait even that long when there's, you know, all this kind of needless watering happening? So I think it's worth maybe sitting down with Tom and, you know, asking him what the criteria is, what are the requirements, and, you know, what sets off the drought. Because I mean, he obviously listens to what the state's saying, but then again, we don't have to follow all of those guidelines when we have our own water sources. So it would be interesting to hear. And of course, he has to listen to what the Water and Sewer Commission is saying, and has to report to them. So that might be interesting to hear from him, maybe one of our meetings or something. We could bring him on and hear about how they make their decisions and what the criteria is, if there should be anything changed in light of what's happening right now.
Yeah, and do they
and
take
future-
into account like fire hazard levels and all that as well
Right,
with heat?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion because reading John Eric's email this morning about the Groveland and, you know, the running of a hydrant, and, you know, it is sort of alarming. And frankly, I'm shocked we still haven't had a water ban. You know, I don't have any particular expertise here, that's for sure. There are lots of people who have bigger, better brains about water supplies, but it does seem a bit surprising to me that I could still be watering my lawn all day if I wanted to be, although it looks like straw right now. And, you know, why do we have the threshold that we have, especially since we have such a challenge with algal blooms in the arch, you know? So
Yeah,
it would be
another
really
element.
interesting to explore that with Tom.
And we had, you know, people that were visiting, you know, people from Georgetown, you know, they had a water ban months ago in Raleigh, and, you know, everyone around us has different time frames. So it just gets confusing to people, I think, as well.
Yeah. I would agree. It'd just be interesting to sort of explore that. And
Yeah,
whether or
I
not we
agree.
should, maybe we don't need to change it, but it'd be nice
Right.
to at least have the discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe, you know, we know every August that things get challenging with water. So why shouldn't we could be proactive and say, okay, no matter what, you know, unless it's complete rain season, we should be sending out information about conservation. I know the mayor did some of that on his blog on the city website, but, you know, maybe we start doing a little bit more proactive.
Agree. There's no reason you know, unless you, like you say, unless we have a super rainy summer,
Right.
there's no reason we couldn't at least say to people about, you know, watering in the morning and evenings and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't have to be through the blog. It could be through, you know, the email push system, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
there are just ways I think we could tackle this
Right.
more proactively.
I'll make sure that that's on our next agenda, and I'll try to reach out to Tom as well, unless
Yeah, I'm
anyone-
sure he would be, he's very open to
Okay.
this kind of thing. So I think he'd be happy to come and talk about it.
All right.
Meanwhile, in the meantime, everybody do your rain dance.
Right,
Yes, I know.
Right.
I know.
every morning.
I know. I was so happy when it started to rain. I was like,
I know.
"Oh my gosh."
We just had like
I ran
4
outside.
drops on my drive here, which is why I was a little bit late, but there were like 4 drops again today. I'm just like, why can we
Not
never
enough.
get more than 4 drops? But
Right.
we're all united on that.
Okay, so we will not let that drop. We'll definitely keep taking
Right.
that issue up. Andy, do you have anything before you drop off at 4?
Well,
Okay.
is there a grant that's being applied for moving the, I thought John Eric, I don't know if he said it in here because I haven't finished reading it.
The Water Street lift station.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we had talked about, I think we have to close that loop maybe with Nancy now at this point, but Jamie and I were talking with the Parker River Wildlife Refuge headquarters folks about moving it, working with some of their land there. So we got some bureaucracy to deal with from the federal government there. But I think that we also talked about simultaneously, given that one of the grants we're not necessarily applying for elsewhere, we maybe prioritize this one. So I'd have to defer, I think, with some exchange we have. I think we should ask Nancy basically at this point to confirm. But I think we're planning on applying for one of those grants for the relocation of that station and to try to get going on that sooner rather than later. But other than that, I'm sorry, I can't specify the details.
So maybe an update from Nancy at some point would be good.
Yeah, and John Eric may not be available the next week or so, but possibly, but either way, we could get an answer from the two of them and just clarify for folks here. But definitely, there's an effort to try to get funding, whether it's this round or another round, for funding. I think we had talked about a near-term application to see if that provides funding for that.
Okay.
Andy, anything else that you want to speak to or?
I'm sorry, I can't off the top of my head. One thing I would mention, there might be some other things if anybody has any questions for me, but one thing I would mention, just in case anybody's interested, is the Market Landing Park project. I know Jordy's dealing with the bulkhead. I'm dealing with the Market Landing Park project. Jordy's John Ark is obviously dealing with a lot of the DPS end of things. We have other projects and initiatives, but for the Market Landing Park, Rick Tater is obviously his vice chair of the planning board, and he is kind of the person who's spoken most at the planning board meetings about resiliency for Market Landing Park in relation to site plan approval, which the planning board has to do for that project, even though it seems like housekeeping for the most part, because who's going to object to a bigger park, but basically to walk through the details of that. And so Rick had asked one question that I just wanted to flag here to the extent it's relevant to our discussion about what map we show on my map, or what layers we show on data set we use. The question that Rick had asked was why, and I'd have to defer to our consultant who's going to speak to this at the planning board meeting on the 7th of September, but we have a consultant from VHB speaking to it. But the bottom line is, why are we using one data set versus another, whether it be 50 inches or 40 inches for Market Landing Park, and how that relates to this 40 inches that we keep talking about here for our mapping exercise. And I think Rick is asking not just for Market Landing Park, but also to understand a little better, are we using the right data set for our exercise online? So, so at any rate, for the viewer, for the general public. So that being said, I guess, is I just wanted to flag that there's this question out there, and should we get any further clarification or information about that data set, or what VHB thinks is appropriate for Market Landing Park, and if that's helpful, we can then pass it on and share it with others. If you want to attend the meeting, feel free. But VHB, the sub-consultant Sasaki, who's doing the design for us, is going to be speaking about resiliency and the data set that they're using, and what the sort of rationale is for how we're doing resiliency for the park project, which is as best we can with certain constraints. So that data set, or the assumptions there, might be relevant to whatever data set we're using here for the MyMap end. So, and I'm not wedded myself to any one particular data set. They're all estimated projections, but we've kind of come to some agreement on what we might be using there. And I think Rick is asking partly because he wants to know if we're using the right one for our own purposes. So
yeah, that's really interesting. When we wrap, let's find just when we wrap up. At our next meeting, we're going to I have a speaker coming in from the Conservation Law Foundation speaking to that as well. And when I talked to her briefly, she's like, the more dynamic modeling you can get, the better. And so she has some opinions. Everyone has so many opinions, but I think it's so important, at least that we're consistent, or we have a rationale if we do end up using a different data set.
yeah.
I think Rick is asking the right questions, and I know
Right.
we've gotten so far with the MyMap, but I don't want to go back.
No, and I have,
but-
I mean, the thing
but
is, at the
I
end of the
think the
day,
more we're
someday we have to call it a
educated-
day and just say, this is the current estimate, and then we update it as we go, but it's not going to be a fixed thing that stays in
Right.
time, because it's constantly moving. So it's okay, the fact that it's changing, we just try to keep it consistent as best we can.
Yeah. But so that meeting's on the 7th.
Yeah, it's just a regular planning board meeting to do the site plan approval, but because resiliency is part of the review of that project. And there was this discrepancy in the data set, or the assumptions there from what VHB was using compared to what we've been talking about here. His question was, can VHB clarify that a little bit? And so I asked to make sure that VHB would be there for the meeting to walk through that a little bit. So some of the slides they were using will speak to that. And to the extent it's relevant to the data set or the sourcing of that, it may be helpful to us here. So whether you want to tune in or we want to circle back on it, it might be helpful to our discussion here. Whether or not we change our data set is another thing, but at least as far as some contextual background.
All right, I'll try to tune in. Thank you.
Like you said, it's always changing. So I mean, I'm not, we could change it and then feel like we're changing it again 2 weeks later for some other projections. So at some point we just have to agree, all right, this is a reasonable projection. It might be adjusted.
Yeah. Okay.
Other than that, thank you.
Yeah. Something I didn't mention at the beginning because we weren't all here is Rishi contacted me last week, and he's stepping down from the committee. We haven't seen him in a bit. He has a lot of time constraints, scheduling constraints. He said he'll be available to us if we have any questions, specific questions and stuff. But yeah, I thanked him for, especially last fall when we were really taking up issues on Plum Island. I learned a ton from him. We really appreciated his time. So that leaves us down a couple of members actually. And so I would love to add a few. Samantha has been amazing. Remember, we're helping with the communications committee. I don't think it would hurt to still add another person in terms of community relations or community organizing. For us to get insights from them, but if anyone has any ideas for any folks that may help, it's hard because we meet at 3 p.m. on an afternoon on Wednesdays. And so, maybe volunteers start doing, side project. We have all our other subcommittee meetings, but maybe we start meeting at night, and then meet with staff during the day. I don't know. But I know that's difficult for a lot of folks in town. It's just the time that we meet. But if anyone has any ideas, forward them, and I'm also speaking to the mayor.
I have a friend who is recently retired, young, probably mid-50s. She's recently sort of become more and more engaged in city projects. She doesn't necessarily, as far as I know, have any particular bent toward resiliency, but she did work in communications marketing before. So let me reach out to her and see if it's, so she could make an afternoon meeting,
Yeah.
has some communications background and is looking to sort of get more engaged. So she might be a good fit. I'll send you an email about it,
Thanks,
and I'll reach out to her.
Alrighty. Sounds good. Anything else? Have I missed anything? Anybody else have anything else? Julia, I think you're on, did you just say something? Are you on mute?
I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah, so next meeting, Deanna Moran from the Conservation Law Foundation, I think she's going to be great. So I encourage everyone to try to make that meeting. It's our regular third week Wednesday meeting. I'm going to reach out to the mayor's office, and Connie, if you want to talk to other counselors, I can send you more information on what that would be. I would love for as many people as possible to be there. I think she'll speak for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I've got one thing to add. I did send out the email with that story map link. If anybody has any comments or trouble with it, just let me know.
All right.
All right, so Jane, we're back on for the third Wednesday at 3.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Thank you.
I will check the calendar and talk to Diane, and make sure we get the proper link on.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, being so late. But yeah, if you can send me sort of a short snippet on that, I'll send it around to other counselors, and maybe
Yeah.
that will catch them a little bit,
Yeah, she'll be talking about Boston and other Massachusetts communities and what they have done and their legal approach to it, in terms of expected future floodplain and building codes and everything. She's in the thick of it, and I think the more that we know what others are doing, the better, really.
Okay, great.
Alrighty, well, thanks everyone. It was so good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you
been a
too.
long
Thanks
time.
for everybody, for everything.
Take
Again,
care.
sorry for being so
Bye now.
late.
Yeah.
No worries, Connie.
See you next
Take care.
time.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.